Nisambula Vinaka, this is Speak Your Mind on Gold FM, only the classic hits. Your only classic hits radio station in Fiji. And we have the pleasure of joining us today in the studio on Speak Your Mind, the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Women, Children and Poverty Alleviation, Dr. Josefa Koroivueta. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, Luis.
And we also have the pleasure of the company of the Director of Social Welfare. This is Mr. Rupeni Fatiaki. A warm welcome also to you.
Thank you very much.
Well, it's a first for Fiji. I will start with you first, Mr. Koroivueta. And I'm talking about the helpline dedicated to the children of Fiji. Now, why did the Ministry of Women, Children and Poverty Alleviation come up with the idea to launch a child helpline, sir?
Yeah, we had in our radar that we needed to do something to address the issue of child abuse, child welfare that were rising within the country, and the situation needed a response. So the Child Helpline was an initiative that was embarked upon in a very noble, in a holistic way by the ministry, basically to open up the landscape that we have, to open up the environment, so that we are able to break the silence once and for all on child abuses in our country. And it was on that original intention, and also keeping in mind that we are addressing one of the articles within the Convention of the Rights of the Children, the right for the children to be heard.
Yes.
Their right to be heard. Eh? Okay,
Yes.
so it actually it breaks out some of the challenges that we have, whereby children access services, where children, the abuse are happening within their own families, and they don't have an avenue to report because the very people entrusted to care for them are actually the perpetrators for abuse and violence of whatever nature. Eh?
Yes.
So this avenue actually breaks all those barriers. So as long as a child is close to a phone, they'll be able to access this phone, the service. So whether it's a EasyTel, whether it's a landline, whether it's a Digitel, Vodafone, or Inc., it's a free call. It's a free call to wherever they are. So regardless of where they live in Fiji. So the service is available to them. And they're able for them to call for help, to report that there is an abuse in their midst, to access information, even to, other issues relating to child welfare that they needed to. Okay, so it was an avenue basically to break silence within the country. It was a very original intention within the ministry, and it's been on the radar under the leadership of Director of Social Welfare, and we had quite a lot of very useful and also very deep thinking collaborators with us, especially the telecom providers in Fiji. For the first time, we had the 3 telecommunication providers coming to an agreement to provide the needed, facility, the needed gateway in a more, the telecom barrier, so that this facility could be hosted.
This is really good, I reckon. Just perfect to, like you said, break the silence of the children who are suffering and have nowhere to turn. So when was the Fiji National Child Helpline to help abused children launched again?
It was launched last year.
Yes.
In fact, the line was operational from January last year. The line is the initiative of the ministry. And within that, we had to contract the service out to the medical services in the Pacific. They were the successful vendor towards a tender. So it's a tendered out venture of the ministry, and they actually work under the ministry, and the ministry keeps a monitor on the child helpline, basically to see that the child helpline meets up to its original intention. And of course, to look at the gaps and to look at areas that we can make it better. And happy to say that come this year, we are very soon going to launch it on a 24-hour operation. So from the original 12-hour, now it's going to be 24-hour.
Fantastic. Now, it's new for Fiji. And, how many reports of child abuse have been received by the Ministry of Women, Children and Poverty Alleviation through the Child Helpline since it first began? Mr. Fatiaki.
Yeah, thank you. Ever since its inception, we have so far received 10,000, about 10,734 calls.
10,000?
Seven
Oh,
thousand.
7,000? Yes.
Yes, apart from those number of calls, we have, the genuine ones, which comes up to 599. Then we have the prank calls, and the silent calls, and the test calls.
I see.
So those are the figures that we have, and the contracted NGO reports to us on a quarterly basis. And so they give us the report on the calls and the type of cases that have been reported
Okay.
and the actions that have been taken by the service provider.
Thank you, Mr. Fataki. Now, what kinds of information had been reported about children being abused?
According to the records that we have and that is provided by the service provider, most of the calls that come from children are for neglect.
I see.
And then you have emotional abuse, you have physical abuse, and sexual abuse. But apart from that, there are the other reports on issues like they want to know about sexual development, all those kind of issues that they ask. And so it's like I mentioned, Secretary had mentioned, it addresses, gives the children a voice to be heard, so they can ask any questions and of interest. So that's some of the calls that they have been made to the service provider.
So I see. You also have adults, I'm sure, that use the line as well?
Yes. We have figures. I mean, the reports have come to us that adults are also calling, and these are parents, adults, even teachers who are wanted to know more about the line. Likewise, some of them are reporting abuse cases that they have observed, seen in the neighborhood around them, and there are others who are asking even questions related to the work of the Department of Social Welfare.
Okay. So these adults have called in and complained. And what about teachers? I believe there's something that's going to be starting this year on teachers, about the absence of children and also reporting abuse. That's all has been in place already.
Yes. In fact, in the agreement that we had with the service provider, is that part of their responsibility is to create awareness on the helpline. So yes, they have been working with some of the schools in the inception of the program, the test calls, and they have worked with more than 40 schools all over the country in trying to test the phone. So apart from that, the ministry itself has been doing the awareness programs in the schools. I think last year we targeted the Coca-Cola Games.
Okay.
And so we had our people there distributing information, bands, and posters.
Okay,
and
then
brochures and-
we'll get back to that, Mr. Fatiaki. So sorry, we've just run out of time. Speak your mind on Gold FM, only the classic hits. We'll be back in a short while. Welcome back to Speak Your Mind on Gold FM, only the classic hits. And we continue with this very interesting discussion, and that's with the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Women, Children and Poverty Alleviation, Dr. Josefa Kuroi-Vueta. And we also have the Director of Social Welfare, Mr. Rupeni Fatiaki. And if you have any questions, this is a live talkback show on radio, but we have the delayed coverage on FBC TV. So if you do do have questions, you can call 3220-907, or if you have a Digicel phone, 7732-907. Now, we were talking about how the Child Helpline was promoted, and Mr. Fatiaki, you did mention how you were doing this, how you had bands and all that. So you think that we did have enough awareness on this, especially the number for the helpline?
I think there's need for us to continue to promote the number. And so this year we're looking at other ventures. I think at the end of last year we started with our vehicles. So we have one of our vehicles, if you notice it'll be traveling on the road, it has the number 1325 on the side.
Yes, I've noticed the vehicle.
So we are intending to add it to our pool this year to have more of our vehicles all over the country have that number on the site. Likewise, we are talking with the town councils and the cities for the possibility of having sites or in the cities, the towns where we could have a permanent billboard where we have the number, to promote the number. So at the moment we are consulting with the town councils and we have got some positive response from them. So those are the areas. Apart from that, now we are looking at the schools, continuing to, and even in the communities. And yeah, we did, I tried calling Rotuma police to see whether they are able to call on the line, and so they did. So even in Kandau we had the cases that were referred from Kandau through the line, and so yes, there is an awareness within the community, but I believe that we need to do more so that it reaches every corner of the country.
That's exactly right, and this is a perfect way to do it, don't you think, Mr. Koroi Vueta? But you were mentioning also, like the Child Helpline, you work with lots of other people in the community. Well, for example, police. You might like to elaborate on that, sir?
Yes, when we had ventured into this initiative, it was very clear it was not only for reporting. It was clear that reporting need to be tied with a response. So in other words, we have actions upon the problems. And we ventured it in so that and it was with the coordination efforts that the responders or the service providers were also available when the callers were highlighting the issue over to MSP. So in this regard, if the issue is related, it's a criminal activity that need to be reported, the police would then be channeled or referred by the councillors at MSP. If needed medical attention, it certainly be referred to Ministry of Health and Medical Services. Or if you needed counseling, we had people who were qualified counselors to provide either counseling on air, or there'll be set time set out to them. Even parents have also called in, so it was also a line whereby parents could get, counseling, capacity building on positive parenting, even to those who are not well versed with the program. They were well educated about it, and of course to the police, which were our key partners in that regard. And it also links in very well towards the child welfare decree, relating to child abuse, and we needed to. Because our constitution clearly specifies that the actions, the responsibilities of the state in the best interests of the child. And the child have got the right to be free from any violence or any abuse, okay? They have a right to a protective environment. They have right to have good parents, to quality care. These were all the rights that were given to them.
Yes.
And this was an avenue basically to address the existing problems that we have in Fiji. And the increasing, child abuse has been very well highlighted by Honorable Prime Minister, and it's very encouraging to see our leaders actually in many of the media forums now, and even in the community discussions or talanoa sessions, they're actually speaking about it. And I think speaking about the issue, which is a problem, it's a big road to actually alleviating the child abuse.
That's right, and it is so timely for our children. It's about time we get this done because, as we look around, we do see, just a lot of parents not being responsible enough in bringing up their children in a proper way, teaching them manners, and also protecting them. I think the worst is the sexual abuse against children. And I believe last year it was reported that 54% of cases reported against children were sexual abuse.
Yeah.
And that is absolutely shocking. I mean, I know it's been going on since time began, but with this initiative, I think this will be the best way to tackle, those horrible people who want to prey on the children.
Exactly. And the sad part is the abuses are happening within the very home and done by parents or very close relatives or guardians, whom the children respect them, whom the children, entrusted, that they are there for them, to care for them, to love them, to bring them up, to be the guide for their life, to be the mentor in all aspects. It's very sad, and I think, as the man and the Honorable PM said, it's a shame that we have come to a situation like this, and it's labeled the violence against women and children and girls is a national shame, and it's given us a huge leap in the business towards alleviation or the eradication of child abuse in that regard.
Yeah.
But the thing, Louis, the thing is, it's the parents that have the divine responsibility to look after their children. And what we see now in the media and what's been highlighted is basically parental neglect. Children are unsupervised, they're left to stream on their own, and of course you face the consequences or the risks. Children are drowning in rivers, in flooded pools, all these environments. So it's a lack of supervision, lack of parental care, lack of parental responsibilities that leads into this. And when you look deep enough, it's some of it arises from the lack of quality time that parents have with their children.
Which is very important.
Which is so crucial, which is very crucial.
That's right, Mr. Koroivueta. But just need to get into a break now. We'll be back to talk more on this very important issue of just how important it is for parents to bring up their children responsibly and lovingly. So on Speak Your Mind on Gold FM, only the classic hits. We'll be back shortly with more. This is Gold FM, only the classic hits, and Speak Your Mind, a live show on radio and the delayed coverage shown on FBC TV. Welcome back. We've got a caller on the line, and she has a question to ask. This is Nancy Vakatawa. Bula, Nancy?
Bula Louise and Mr. Koroivueta and Mr. Fatiaki. I'd like to ask a question. This is about housing. The interim government took the housing funds from social welfare and gave it to the DL's office. And I see many senior citizens going from silver to no sorry. It's very hard. Can the government bring it back to social welfare?
Okay, maybe I can make an attempt to answer you, madam. There was initially a housing scheme that was under the ministry, which Mr. Fatiaki knows. That is no longer with us now. And the government basically wanted to streamline that all housing comes under central agency to avoid duplication of efforts, basically, and basically to streamline, the need for housing and the need to address housing. That was the key issue. I know exactly what you're talking about, and it used to be about 200,000 per year, and we actually gone up because, on top of that, it was not in the core business of the ministry or mandate. It was not our business mandate, to look after housing. Our mandate is very different.
Minakavakalevu, Mr. Koro Ivueta. But yes, we were speaking on about the very important issue before the break of how parents need to be more responsible. You said that children are drowning in the creeks. You know, they're left to just walk alone on the road, not being taught road rules. So how do you think we'll be able to change the parents' mindset?
Okay, basically, this is where faith-based organizations do come in. And may I make the call now to faith-based organizations, because they also have a huge responsibility towards the positive parenting of our parents, okay? And there's actually differences in parenting. And the quality of parenting given now, I must say, is somewhat not satisfactory, because you can visually see for ourselves, you know, the impact of inadequate parental care now. We hear rise in drowning, I mean the rise in traffic, in the road accidents involving children. And we even see, I mean, it's no longer secret that we do pass by, and you see the parents on one side of the street and waving their children to come on the other side. It's heartbreaking to see that. It pains you in the heart, because there are risks, there are real risks, and the incidents happen there and then. We need to take stock of this. We need to do something about it, because otherwise we'll be just crying over the spilled milk.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, I mean, even as citizens, if we do see a parent being careless, I think it would be right for us to actually tell the person, hey, what are you doing? Don't you think?
Yeah, I think when you look at marital life, you know, there is a key component there is called premarital counseling. And we now need to veer towards that, where basically, you know, all couples that before marriage, they need to go through that phase of premarital counseling, basically so that they become good parents. It's not a matter of having a marriage done for convenience when the lady herself is pregnant. And there are some rituals put in place in a very ad hoc manner. Basically, I would say for convenience, basically to ensure that marriage happens. But it's not the case. You know, the marriage life starts from day one. It's a life in evolution. You know, it's challenges every day, and they need to be prepared for that. You know, so that, you know, when they go into marriage life, they have what it takes, you know, to face up to all the challenges in a marriage, in a family, issues about parenting, so that they are built. And it's not a surprise that they have a child and now they become parents overnight. You know. And this is what the side that we are coming from.
Yes, because when you have a child, it's a lifetime responsibility until they're independent. So it is a responsibility of the parent to ensure that the child has, you know, good manners, knows what is right and what is wrong.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, for the child helpline, again, counselors, do you have many?
Yes, the service provider does have professional counselors that, in fact, they are the frontline people that receive the calls. And so, after the assessment, you know, if the counseling can be done online, on the phone, and they do that. But apart from that, you know, as the Permanent Secretary has alluded to, there's time schedules for counseling. Likewise, we have an agreement with Empower Pacific, who does professional counseling. So cases are, once they are referred to us, they are referred to these professional counselors who conduct the counseling with children.
And I believe they speak a few languages like Rotuman.
Yes, they speak the Tokai, the Hindi, and some of them speak Rotuman.
I really find this exciting, and I think this is going to be really good coverage for you. And maybe you can give us the number again.
It's 1325. That's the number to call.
It sounds really simple to remember. Even I could remember that. 1325. Yes, and we will work together in just having a wonderful society. You know, like you said, everything comes from the home. Starts from the home.
I think one of the things that we would like to highlight, especially with the age that our children are living in, and the technology that is accessible to them. And so I think one of the important things that we highlight to parents is, it's easy to give your children the gadget. And so, they occupy themselves with the gadget. So you can do whatever you want to do while your children are occupied. Look, I think that's one area that parents need to be aware of, to monitor, because of, the sites that they can go into. We have a recent case where two couple met on Facebook, and they, rape occurred because of that, that connection that they had to Facebook. And so, it's happening here in Fiji, it's happening all over. And I think we, as parents, we need to be very cautious and monitoring, what our children, especially when we give them those gadgets for them to use.
Absolutely, that is so true. But we'll have more when we come back on Speak Your Mind on Gold FM, only the classic hits, your only classic hits radio station in Fiji. Welcome back to Speak Your Mind on Gold FM, only the classic hits. We continue with our discussion, and that's with the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Women, Children and Poverty Alleviation, and also the Director of Social Welfare, Mr. Rupeni Fatiaki. Very important issue we are discussing about children. Now, I believe the Ministry of Women, Children and Poverty Alleviation in the 2016 national budget was allocated $52.2 million. Out of this, an increase of $2 million is going towards a child protection allowance. Mr. Fatiaki, what is the care and protection allowance under the ministry?
Thank you. The care and protection allowance is part of our programs, ministry's programs, that focus on, like, as we discussed earlier, on the protection of children, like child helpline is one of the facets of our work. But, child protection allowance, this is where government gives assistance to families, especially families of single mothers, deserted spouses, who have children and are struggling to make ends meet. So this is government's contribution to such families, especially ensure that the children are protected and, given that caring environment and that their basic needs are met. So, this year government has increased the budget to $3.2 million for the care and protection allowance. Apart from that, the government has also given $500,000 as part of the awareness programs and the implementation of the Convention of the Rights, Children's, the CRC, Convention of the Rights of the Child. And so these are recommendations that are made by the CRC committee. And so this funding goes to providing protective and caring environment for the children. So the care protection allowance, as you mentioned, a monthly allowance that is given to this type of households. And so it's given until the children turn 18. Our constitution defines that a person can vote at the age of 18, meaning they become an adult. But during those years, under the age of 18, they are given that assistance. It's dependent on the number of children. The minimum is $25. The maximum is $110, and that is the ceiling as approved by government. And so a family can receive the maximum of $110 plus $50 food voucher, which they can go and redeem in one of the vendors, approved vendors by the ministry. So this is given to them monthly to help them with their needs, especially the basic needs like food. And I think the recent report that was done by UNICEF, when they reviewed this program, they discovered that about 70+% of the recipients were using this assistance as was intended for.
Oh, well, that's good. It can't be very easy. I'm sure you get a lot of applications. How do you identify these children that do come under the allowance protection?
They will have to apply to us, and they will have to provide us with the birth certificates of the children. The school, if the schooling, and a home assessment is done by our officers. And once that is done, and the application is put through to the managers, who looks at the casework and sees that if they pass the criteria, then they endorse those applications. Yeah.
So, like, roughly how many applications have you received
At the moment,
so far?
we have 2,000 plus households on care and protection allowance, and that's about 5,000 children assisted, 5,000 children in those households.
So, what would you like to tell the public? I mean, when you get these amount of applications, it might take a little while to get them processed, or you do it as fast as possible, I'm sure.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention to the public that we are now in relooking at all our protection schemes now, even for CNP now, because we are quite aware that there has been some abuse of the system, and we wanted to take that out and streamline the scheme, so only those who truly deserve it should be given the scheme. So we've now put in strategies in place to ensure that only those that should be getting the child protection allowance should be getting it. We know instances, and there's some observations seen by us. There's a trend that when working couples go out into urban areas, they leave their children with the grandparents. And we really do not condone that, because the children, they need their parents. They need to be with them. And the parents too have a responsibility. And also we're mindful that the grandparents have actually, worked their working life, and they do not have the avenue financially to look after the children. Not even the capacity. And some of them are sort of disadvantaged, but they're expected in the kind of society that we need in, to look after them. And some of them have come to us and said, we are financially incapable to look after these children. And they resort to CNP. So I said, we really need to look at cases like this so that we tackle the roots, tackle the root issue. And if we really look deep in it, it's in the best interest of the child. And we know that some of the grandparents have succumbed to some, crippling conditions simply because of the stress, that they have endured psychologically, mentally, physically, financially, looking after young children. They were not meant to look after young children. Of course, the young children, they can give their words of wisdom to the young children.
Yes.
But, to look after them on a daily basis, that's a different issue.
I really agree with you on that, Mr. Koroi Vueta.
Yeah, I think another issue that we'd like to highlight to the community is especially with the single mothers. This is with the deserted spouses. We have a lot of cases where they've come to us, to the government, to assist them, because the father of the children have left, and they have applied for maintenance, but because the process is too cumbersome and long, they had not been able to get the assistance from the very person who should have the responsibility to look after it.
Yes.
So that's one of the challenges we face, and I think we would encourage, especially in the enforcement, the part of enforcement of the Maintenance Act, is that because a case could go on for years without any final decision is made, or even if a decision is made, the lady has to go to the court, nearly every month trying to chase after that, but it's not she's not getting what was rightfully should be given to her and the children.
So that's another story, Mr. Fatiaki.
And those are the
fathers.
challenges. And so at the end of the day, they come to the state for assistance, where the first responsibility should be the fathers.
That's exactly right. Well, we'll be back for more on Speak Your Mind on Gold FM, only the classic hits. This is Speak Your Mind on Gold FM, only the classic hits. And our talkback continues with our great guest in the studio today, the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Women, Children and Poverty Alleviation, Mr. Joseph Koroi-Veta, and the Director of Social Welfare, Mr. Rupeni Fatiaki. Now, we could go on for a long time talking about all these issues, and we don't have enough time. This is going to be our last segment. So from the two of you, maybe you first, sir, an important message that you'd like to stress to the public.
Yes, I think just wanted to put right at the forefront that children are treasure, children are heritage from the Lord, and children are they have parents. And when there's breakup in families between the father and the mother, I must emphasize to the parents that when you break up your marriage, remember you don't break up your parental role. You'll always be the father till death. You'll always be the mother till death. So if there is an issue about divorce, it's only between you as husband and wife, not between you as parents. That's key number one. And the other thing is the children deserve to be cared for, to be loved, to be given the warmth, be given the words of guidance to prepare them for life. They are dependent, and one day they will grow up to be a mature person. And the government has invested heavily in children because it looks upon them as the future generation of our country. And any act to disable them or to be a blockade towards their livelihood or what their future is actually is the big break that the children will never ever forget. And in fact, the children will always might forget what the parents say, but what they will not forget is what the parents do. So I think that's a very important message. And to the parents, if ever in your life that you needed help, situation, please remember that you can also call 1325. The government is ready to work with faith-based organizations to address issues about parenting, to address family life, to set in course a new roadmap to ensure the Fiji that we are going in, the one that the government is working tirelessly to see that the Fiji, where no one is discriminated, no one is subjected to abuse, will involve partnership of good nature, one that will bring about actions.
Vinaka, Mr. Koroi-Veta, wonderful words, so true. And Mr. Fatiaki, what would you like to say?
Thank you. To support the Permanent Secretary's words, I believe that, especially with for us parents with working with children, we have seen in our work, how children have been used by parents, especially when it comes to separation. And from our experience, we have we observed that they try to use the children to get back at each other, and that's the saddest part, because these children don't know, like Permanent Secretary said, they don't know what happened between mom and dad. So the difference between them, they only know that he is my dad and she is my mom. And so putting these thoughts in children, to hate the father, to hate the mother, dislike the father, dislike the mother, that's it's a sad thing, because research has internationally and locally has proven that children that come from such backgrounds tend to don't do well in school, in many aspects of life, because of the background that they've gone through, the abusive background, the neglect and all this. And so my encouragement to parents, if we come to that stage, please please don't use the children to get back at each other, because children are not just objects. They are not objects. They are emotional. They have emotions, and it's damaged. If it's damaged at a young age, it affects them for the rest of their lives.
That's absolutely right.
So that's something that I would like to. And the other thing that I would like to leave with the parents is in a society now and the things that are happening to our children, please listen to your children and be observant, because sometimes we tend to think that they are children and what they are saying, you don't take what they are saying seriously. And we have come across a lot of cases where the child has somehow mentioned to the parents what have happened to them, but parents, because they think they are children, they don't listen to them, and it kind of brushes aside by their children. So I'm requesting the parents, if children say, come up to you with some issues that it's not normal, please listen to them. And likewise, please be observant of your children. Because you have a very active child, and all of a sudden they start being quiet, reserved, and not talking, there's got to be something happening. And so we need to be observant, with our children. In our homes, likewise in the schools for the teachers. A bright child could be, doing well in school, and all of a sudden her grades drops, she's not coming to school, and all this kind of, the behaviors that we display, we got to be, asking ourselves, what's wrong with this child? And so it's not just a face level, but we need to go deeper, in trying, when we're working with children. So this is my advice to our parents, please.
Wonderful advice from the both of you, I must say. But yes, children, how parents bring them up, or guardians, that is the foundation. And if you're going to do your work properly, and that child, the future of this country, will turn out to be a great citizen.
Yes, not only that, it becomes a solution to the social ills that we have right now. Even in cases of suicide, if you take into good parenting care, we could have easily prevented it. But like Director said, if the parents need to know their children, they need to know them. And then the first place for discipline is home. And the first place for them to get information is home. First place for them to get the words of wisdom is home. So it all has to start in home, but only with good parental care.
That's right. Thank you so much for that. And just again, the number, if anyone, if whoever is listening right now, if they see something that needs to be reported, I still remember the number, 1325.
Very good.
Yes, so anyway, I'm very sure we'll be back for more, maybe another time to talk about something else very interesting from your department. But is there anything else that you'd like to say?
Well, there are many issues about children, and we could spend just one time on parenting, issues about, those are the sensitive issues that we have right now, and probably give more time for talkbacks. Okay. Yeah.
I think, we have one of our awareness ads like a child is a gift from God. So we all like to receive gifts. How to reject our gifts that are given to us.
Very good. Wonderful words from our guest who took out the time to talk about our children of Fiji. And we look forward to great parenting and also for guardians to bring up the children in the proper way. Now that ends Speak Your Mind. Thank you so much for coming,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Koroi Vueta and Mr. Fatiaki.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Vinaka, Speak Your Mind on Gold FM, only the classic hits. Will be next Tuesday, another episode. Join us then. More demanda.